Why is there no representation in Congress for Black Americans? Welcome back to Politics and Pieces. Black Americans, the group whose labor built the country and whose lineage is written into the Constitution, have no dedicated representation in Congress. I don't mean black faces in office. I'm not talking about people of color coalitions. I'm not counting the civil rights organizations claiming to speak for everyone, but what I am saying is there is not a lineage-specific political advocacy organization for Black Americans descended from U.S. slavery. We are tired of symbolic representation and black faces in high places. Representation does not mean just putting a black face there to speak for Black Americans, because far too many times the black faces are immigrants and they lobby and petition on behalf of their own lineage and ignore the issues of Black Americans. Let me pause here and say that when I say Black Americans, I am specifically speaking about the descendants of chattel slavery in the United States. There is a difference between race-based representation and lineage-based representation. Race-based representation is too broad and too vague of a category. This used to work before, when the United States was mainly black and white, but now the black category includes immigrants, diaspora groups, and anyone racially categorized as black. It lumps millions of people together who do not share the same history. This dilutes lineage-specific needs. Lineage-based representation is what we need. We need people who will lobby for and fight for the descendants of U.S. chattel slavery, who are a specific, measurable, historically harmed group. We are the only group whose oppression is explicitly referenced in the Constitution by the 3/5 Clause and the 13th and 14th Amendment, and it's a shame that Congress has no caucus, no committee, or office dedicated to this lineage. Now, let me show you how other groups have dedicated representation. Hispanic and Latino Americans have the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Asian Americans have the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. Native nations have the House Subcommittee for Indigenous Peoples, a government-to-government relationship. LGBTQ has the Equality Caucus. Veterans have the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees. Small business owners have small business committees. There is no congressional caucus for Black American descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. Not one. The group whose unpaid labor built the economy. Why has this happened? There are 4 major reasons Black Americans don't have representation. Let's start with racial aggregation. The federal government lumps all black people into one racial category. This erases lineage and makes targeted advocacy impossible. Then there's organizational capture, where these legacy civil rights groups shifted from lineage-specific missions to people of color frameworks. This leaves Black Americans without a dedicated political home. Next, there's immigration and demographic shifts. This is why Black immigrants now hold a growing share of Black political positions. Their political priorities are not identical or aligned to Black Americans descended from U.S. chattel slavery. The lack of a lineage-based caucus seems very intentional and has added to the harm of Black America. Without a caucus, we have no staff dedicated to our issues, no legislative agenda, no coordinated voting bloc, and no accountability structure. Congress responds to lineage-based groups, and Black Americans have been racialized. The consequences to the lack of congressional representation are real and has caused Black Americans to be neglected and cast to the side by our own government. Reparations bills stall or get watered down. Federal agencies avoid lineage-specific data. Black American neighborhoods lose funding to minority programs that serve everyone. Immigration, policing, housing, and education policies ignore the unique harms to Black Americans. No one in Congress is obligated to fight for our political interests. It's like being in a political vacuum. This is why it's important to politically organize around lineage, not race, not African. And until we do, Congress will continue to try and ignore us instead of treating us like a political constituency. I identify as Black American, but I use it socially because we have too much history and too many accomplishments tied to it. But I know the correct political language will fall under FBA, ADOS, or Freedmen. I'm not caught up on semantics. I just know that we will be heard and we will not be erased or ignored any longer. I want to say thank you for being here, and we will catch up on the next video.